right, so we've learned about while loops. Let's take a look at for loops. And if we look at the notes here, for loops are very similar. Just like in a while loop, we had to initialize something, we had to test it, we had to update it, and then we had the loop body. Same thing here, we initialize something, we test it, we update it, and we have a loop body. Okay, so I'm going to show you here, and in fact, let's just, I'm just going to comment this out for a second, control slash. And let's just do a for loop. A for loop is for, just like that, for your parentheses and then your brackets. So very similar to an if statement, to a while loop. But the difference here is that this for loop inside the parentheses, we break it up into 3 sections by using 2 semicolons. And the first section will only run once. This is where we usually initialize our code. So that would be doing something like this. Let num be assigned 10. Okay, so that will only run once. The section in the middle here is our test, our condition. That's going to be checked every time while this loop is running. Once that condition is false, the loop will end. So that's where I would do my test, like num is greater than or equal to 1. And then the last section is, well, basically, if this is true, it'll do what's inside of the loop. So console.log num. Right, that's my loop body, the thing that I actually want to get done. And then once that's done, it'll run this last part in here, which is usually where we update the variable. So num minus minus in this case. And then we can have that console.log blast off again. Okay, so the main thing, like the main cycle that JavaScript does here is it'll initialize this variable. It'll then test the variable. If it's true, it'll run the loop body, and then it'll run this part to update the variable, and then it'll test it again. And if that's true, it'll run the loop body, and then it'll update, and then it'll test it again. So this is the part here, this, that really cycles, right? This part only runs once to initialize, and then these 3 things kind of cycle until this is false. And if I run this, it should do the exact same thing. Okay, so of course we can start at 1. Well, this is less than or equal to 100, num, I don't know, plus equals 5, let's say. So counting by 5s all the way up to 96. Cool. Maybe I should have started at 0, and then we would have hit 100 evenly. Anyway, start value, stop value, step value, loop body. And we can do our increasing patterns, decreasing patterns, all that good stuff, just like we did with the while loop. Now for something like this with the number patterns, I usually use a for loop. It's just more concise, right? Here I needed additional lines of code for the initializing and the updating, whereas here it's all done in 1 line of code. So I know sometimes it's like, well, why do we even bother having a while loop then if this is so much easier? In the next video, we'll look at some scenarios where a while loop is better suited for certain scenarios. For number patterns, I usually do a for loop. But for other scenarios where maybe you're not sure how long you're going to run, how many times you're going to repeat your code, maybe you have to test multiple conditions, then a while loop is more useful. But anyway, that's the basics for a for loop. The notes are here as well, right? Initialize, your condition to test, your update, your block of code, and hopefully that makes sense. Okay, take care and see you in the next video.